The Enterprise encounters a massive plasma energy. Dr. Leah Brahms is about as friendly as a Circassian plague cat. And Ensign Pavlik pushes buttons way too hard. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 4, Episode 16, Galaxy's Child with Beyonce. Story by, no, that's Destiny's Child, Tom Cartosian. Teleplay by Maurice Hurley. Where have we heard that name before? Directed by Weinrich Colby. This was March 9th, 1991. Where were you? What's up, Sirach Lofton?
What's up? I'm good. 1991. The good years.
Yeah, they had a couple weeks off, it seems.
Yeah.
So, Maurice Hurley, wasn't that the guy that we learned all about in the Chaos on the Bridge documentary? Wasn't that the guy that was like a producer there, and then he was only there for like the first and second season?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then I guess he just came back for this one episode. Like he wrote it. I don't know. This is weird. I need to check this out.
Yeah, I thought he was the one that was left in charge
For Gene,
for a while when Gene, they sent Gene on vacation or wherever, and Maurice Hurley took over. And then I guess lost control of the ship or didn't like people arguing with his style. And so I think something like that, right?
Yeah, so yeah, he was the producer in the first couple seasons, as we know, and then he ended up leaving. But it does seem as though he still has this one writing credit in season 4, and he actually has one more writing credit in season 5 as well, a story by credit in season 5. So he wasn't on the team really anymore, but I guess they still had their door open, or I don't know why he wrote the script for this one. I could see why they would take a pitch, and get the story by credit, but who knows the inner workings.
And you never know. He may have been contractually obligated to do something or do something. Who knows the way it could have worked out? But I do know that he was kind of one of the head writers for in the beginning of the first season or second season. So,
yeah, he was like Gene's like attorney or right-hand man or something weird like that, and people didn't like him. But it is surprising that he wrote this script, like that guy that we heard so much bad stuff about in the first 2 seasons. I wish I had thought of that while watching it, but I guess it's probably better to just watch the episode and kind of have a blank slate and then watch it and then find out about it afterwards.
Well, here's a theory, and since we're just coming up with this on the fly, my theory is that he wrote the original version of this script. And it may be that Dr. Brahms is a character that he created, perhaps, or wrote really well for in that episode. So he was familiar with this particular storyline and was able to kind of bring it back. That's possible.
It could be.
Just me throwing it out there.
And it was good that Geordi reminded us who she was by talking to Guinan. But really, because back then there was no binging. So you watch this episode, who knows what the percentage chances that you've seen the previous episode where she was introduced. Most people had not that watched this one. So, of course, it's great for the people that have seen it. But for those that hadn't seen it before, they put in those few lines where Geordi's explained to Guinan what happened so that it catches us all up. So I thought that was really good. But that's what you had to do for television up until 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm curious actually to know, was this the Leah Brahms episode? Was that in season 3 or 2? I'm actually.
I think it was 2. I think it was 3. It was either 2 or 3 for sure. I'll check. Okay. I think it was season 3 because I think season 2 just felt like it wasn't. I don't want to say like the quality wasn't there. But I feel like
season 2 is the Dr. Polanski year, right? That's the Polanski season.
And when I think back to the first Leah Brahms episode, it feels like a season 3 episode because forgive me, but it's just not as bad as season 2 episodes. You know what I mean? But maybe that's all it is the quality. But let me check. Susan Gibney is the actress. And let's see here. Got to scroll all the way down. I know people right now are yelling at their screens. They're like, it's obviously season whatever. Everybody knows this.
Season 3, come on.
It's early season 3. That's what it is. So it still had the hangover from season 2. And it was called Booby Trap, by the way, which I thought was cute because Jordy did say, remember when we ran into that booby trap, Guinan? Like a nice little wink for us.
Oh, cool. Yeah, okay. A little bit long of a callback, in my opinion. Just a little bit long for me. And the other thing that is weird for me, it's like, so when this thing opens for me, I'm thinking, oh, this is a Geordi episode, right? Because Geordi gets called in the captain's quarters, and he mentions to him that there's a doctor going to be researching his, work or whatnot. And so instantly that sets the tone for me as a viewer, like, oh, a Geordi episode. Okay, right? This is what's going down. And I'm happy to have a Geordi episode because I feel like he's a character that deserves an episode every once in a while. Matter of fact, I think Worf deserves, it's overdue for an episode too, but that's not, it's a second story. But the thing I see that is happening though is when my character that I want to see get a story, the story is usually the same story that they gave them before, right? It just remixed in a different way.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. It's like, as much as I love Troy, when they bring Luoxana, I'm like, oh, this is the same. This is Luoxana Troy. It's not the same. It's not expanding my understanding of Troy's universe as much as I would like. I would like to know more about her and something deeper and something, but this is going to be the Luoxana, my mom irritates me and I am embarrassed by it type episode. It doesn't expand my consciousness or my understanding of the character. And this particular episode doesn't really expand my Geordi vision or understanding of his character and character traits. It actually just reaffirms what I already kind of know to be true about it.
Yeah, just to add to that, it's funny, I hadn't thought of that, but like, for example, Worf, back in like the second season or he gets a great episode where he meets Kalar, the half human, half Klingon, right? Cool episode. Everything's great, whatever. Then, here comes another Worf episode and it's Kalar again coming back, except now she has a kid. Whoopsie. And he's a terrible dad. Oops. And then, before that, then he also had another episode, which was what? Jeremy Astor, who he's like, both that kid's parents are dead. He's like, I will be your brother, and he's a terrible brother too. It's like it's all the same thing.
It's like I know that he's terrible.
Yeah,
like, let's just reconfirming what I already know. That
let's give him something that has nothing to do with family. Oh, and then his parents also come over. That's another family thing. Like Worf, for some reason, all of his episodes are like family centric, which is not what you would expect, but that's what it is. Let's give him an episode where he's just out like saving the day. It's like him and Crusher and Geordi on an away mission, saving the day. And then, the others are doing the B plot of like, Picard wants to try some new stew.
Or let him actually have a solution that involves his intellect. Because anything that involves Worf's intellect, they shut down right away. Worf says in this episode, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, duly noted. Yeah, okay, Worf.
Every suggestion there's a whole compilation video of like every time Worf gets rejected, and then there's another compilation video of every time Worf gets like beat up. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole thing. He's supposed to be that angle, which is like he's supposed to say, this is dangerous, this is scary, we should get out of here, we should destroy them, we should kill them. So that the other person can be like above it and be like, no, let's talk with him. Oh boy, you're so wise, Picard. Or they want to like demonstrate how tough the Borg are, or how tough that giant Ewok was. So have it knock out Worf. Then the audience will know, whoa, these guys mean business. Poor Worf, man. It's kind of bad.
And so there's nothing to like even offset those narratives that are painted, right? It's like, I remember when Troy got possessed with that entity and she grabbed Worf by the finger and flipped him upside down. Remember? And it was just like, that was to show you how strong this entity was, that it was able to, like, throw Worf around the room. So again, in order for me to have like a well-rounded perception of a character, give me something that is not in their usual wheelhouse. Let Worf solve a problem using his intellect, and we can say,
Great
"Wow,
point.
your Klingon intellect actually came in handy. The instincts that you have as a Klingon were particularly tailor made for this problem and this problem solving." And
Totally.
so then we can elevate him, and he can feel better about himself and not be the guy who's always dismissed based on his ideas.
Or even just without them needing to overthink anything. It's like, if you think about it, Geordi and Data, they always come up with these intelligent solutions. They're great, they're cool, whatever, they're geniuses. Love it. But every once in a while, maybe Worf would. Maybe, Geordi says, well, no, we can't quite do this or that. And then Data says it's impossible to blow. And Worf says, well, why don't we try something like this? And then they kind of look and they go, yeah, it's a good idea, Worf. That'll work just fine. Well, why can't he just have an idea throw out an idea every once in a while that they go, actually, yeah, Worf, that's pretty good. I'm glad you're in this meeting with us.
And they could even discard it in the beginning, like, Worf, that'll never work. And then Data says, well, actually, if you do recalibrate the technically it would cause this. And Worf's maybe dumb idea could turn out to be the right solution. I just feel like, like say, even a broken clock's right twice a day, right?
Totally.
Worf should get his broken clock moments every once in a while, and so should Geordi. And in this case, he gets hit over the head with the same exact, profile for his character, which doesn't expand my understanding of Geordi. And this just reconfirms what I understand Geordi to be, which is socially awkward, intellectually a savant, but also well-meaning and genuine, and you know what I mean, and willing to accept whatever it is. He's not going to resist, and try to fight. He's going to accept, okay, that's what it is. And I think those are certain, character traits that we've seen true so far up in this show.
Totally. So, and also, like a broken clock is right 2 times a day, twice a day. It did make me think that Worf does have 2 clocks, because it's right. Then he's right 4 times a day, I guess. Anyway, so the point is that so this episode, I'll be honest, I don't remember this episode too much. I remember the lore of Dr. Leah Brahms. I know that she comes back, and I remember that it didn't go according to plan. Like, I remember the point of it, but I have basically no memory of this baby alien thing, probably with good reason. It didn't really move the needle much for me. And Leah Brahms moved the needle, obviously, for Geordi. That was a good story. That's funny. But can we talk about how, like, Here was my one major qualm with this episode. I'm just going to go ahead and get into it.
Yeah.
Geordi did. I mean, well, first of all, actually, there's also the obvious, which is what he did in the previous episode. But Geordi, he executed to perfection the old, you can't be mad at me because I'm even more mad at you. And that, that game that people like to play where they do something wrong, and then you point out that they did something wrong, and then they go, well, I only did it because you're the one. And then they start, and the next thing you know, you're like backpedaling and apologizing. You're like, wait a minute, how did they do that? And then they walk off, and you're like, how did they get me to apologize when they're the ones that messed up? Yeah. And so in this case, she catches him, and she cracked me up when she's like, how many of these did you make? Maybe one for every day of the week, one for every mood that you're in. And he should have just eaten shit right there. But he's like, well, all I was trying to do was be your friend and you were mean. And she's like, okay, I'm sorry. I was like, how the hell did he
Yeah.
pull that off? That is totally a lawyer that wrote that. That was totally Gene Roddenberry's attorney that wrote that. He wrote the old "I'm even more mad at you" game, and it totally worked. So I don't know. I didn't really like that personally, but it was at least funny to me to see.
Yeah, I had problems with this episode all the way. Like it just there was just one thing after another that bothered me. I felt like Jordy had several opportunities to come clean about about what happened in that previous episode. He should have explained that they ran into this anomaly. He needed to figure out something. He downloaded the program. It recreated an image of you, and I ended up falling in love with that image. It would have been really, I mean,
That's tough though.
or having feelings for that image, right? And so he could have just came out in the beginning, got the awkwardness out of the way, owned up to it all, and that way there's nothing to be discovered about, like uncovered about. Oh, I found out that you're doing this. Oh, now I see what you're doing. Right? It would have been a lot more like, yeah, that's what I told you. You know what I mean? It's like honesty is the best kind of policy. You get pulled over and you're like, officer, my license might be suspended. If he comes back and says your license is suspended, it's like, yeah, I told you. You know what I mean? It's like you caught me in the truth. You didn't catch me in a lie. So to me, that's the first problem that I saw with this episode. The other thing was like, you know, because now we're in a day and age, and thank God we are, where workplace sexual harassment is like such in the front of our foreground of our mind, at least those of us that are, you know, considerate of it or think that it means something. Some people disregard it altogether, don't care about it, and thus violate the policies in terms of what it means to be cordial in the workplace. But, you know, sexual harassment in the workplace makes me uncomfortable when I see it being done, because nobody should be sexualized when they're, you know, just at work doing their job. You know, in your leisure time, if you're at, you know, a nightclub or whatever, and and somebody approaches you, that's a different scenario than your workplace. You're actually your coworkers. So in this case, I felt like when Jordy invited her to eat, that would have been kind of appropriate, maybe if it was done in a social gathering spot.
Like
If
10
he says,
forward.
hey, 10
Totally.
forward. Yeah.
Totally. He's like, let's talk about this a little further in my quarters. And she's like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess if that's what we have to do to get this thing done, I guess.
Yeah, I don't like that. I didn't like that. I thought the my quarters was the line crosser. If he says, "Hey, I'd like to introduce you to my friends. Let's go to 10 forward, and you know, and we'll, you know, I'll get you. You know, that's where everybody hangs out after work." That would have been a different scenario. Then he could have had a Guinan scene where he's like, "This is my friend Guinan. She knows all about you."
She would have been the best wingman. Oh my God, you're right. He would have been like, oh, this is Guinan. We'll have two, whatever. Actually, I forgot something in my quarters. I'll be right back. He's like winking at Guinan. You got this. And she would seal the deal for him. She'd be like, so Jordy, he's a great guy. He's super smart.
Yeah.
He's a little shy. So just be patient with him if he says or does the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he'd come back and Leah Brahms would be like, hey, Jordy, let's hang out. You're my pal. Let's have next drink is on me. Right. She would have been the best.
Yeah. She would have been the best. And then they could have had, they could have talked about the ship's intake manifold and the nuclear core reactors and all that stuff, and had drinks all night long. It would have been great.
Yeah.
And then Guinan, by the way, would have figured out she was married in, like, by the time he got back from the bathroom.
That would have been funny too, because then Leah Brahms is like, she's like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. She goes off, and Jordy's like, thanks, Guinan. That was great. She's like, she's married, you know. What? Yeah, she's married. How can you tell? They don't wear rings, I guess, in the 24th century or whatever. But
okay,
yeah, all right. She's like, I can tell.
It would have been a lot, but you know, and then maybe he fights that. I don't know. There would have been. It would have went a different way, obviously, but still, the part that I just didn't agree with, even if they didn't go to 10 forward and have the Guinan moment, they still have to meet in a public place. You can't meet in his quarters where he's got his silk pajamas on with the
That
candle lights.
sweater. That sweater. That was a Wesley Crusher leftover, man. Come on.
Yeah, don't wear the MC Hammer pants with that sweater and think that things are going to go your way like you want. Um, no, I just felt like the whole come back to my place, that was too much for me. Hey, let's go meet up for coffee and talk. That would have been cool, but that clearly showed that he was, taking it farther than just the work professional thing.
Yeah.
He's crossing lines.
I'm gonna take a slight twist on that. Like I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna go with it and I'm gonna push it in like that, like it's an intake manifold, whatever that means. And also, but this part is actually consistent with Jordy, which is you got to read the communication, the verbal and nonverbal communication. If she's being rough with you, if she's being gruff and curt and short and disinterested with you, don't invite her to your place. Don't even invite her to dinner. Like, just clearly she's uncomfortable or she doesn't want to be comfortable or whatever. You kind of got to read the room. Like she gave him zero reason to think that she was interested in anything social, friendship or otherwise. Like she just didn't want that. She was very, and sometimes you just got to like accept that. And, even if you don't like it or you think, oh, I can win her over, like sometimes you got to just like respect the person and their boundaries, even if they're missing out on a great guy, but so Jordy doesn't read that. And that's okay because that is consistent with his character. Now we know that sucks. And he's putting her in a very uncomfortable position because she's coming here trying to get a mission done in a professional way. And this guy's like saying, come back to my place. And she's like, is this going to get weird or can we just get this thing done? Because,
Yeah.
I really just want to get this thing done and go see my family.
And you sense that she actually verbalized that in her in her dialogue. It was
made it very clear. She was not. There was no gray area.
Yeah, yeah. She was not like, "Oh, great, I'll go back to your place. What time? 8 o'clock. Great, I'll see you there." It was like, "Oh, your place." Like, it's like that moment when Harvey Weinstein invites you back to the hotel, and you're like, "My audition's at the hotel."
Yeah, in my room.
Yes. Yes. No, thank you.
Yeah. How many pillows do you want for my audience? Yeah. It's a war drama.
Yeah. So it felt weird to me right off top. And I agree with you. He did read the room well. But we kind of know that he does, they've already said that he's awkward, right?
Yeah.
She comes off of getting beamed on the ship. She's like, "You're the one that ruined my ship." So it's like it almost starts like a couple fighting, right? It's like as if they were in his mind they're a couple, right?
Yeah, totally. Totally. And Guinan brought that up too. She's like, the visor that makes you that makes you believe that your fantasies are real or that whatever it is, because sometimes humans are susceptible to that. You go through you play out this whole thing in your mind of how you think it's going to go. And then you kind of get rigid on that and expect it to go that way or expect that it's already gone that way. And it definitely has not. So
it started off in his mind like we're fighting, like it's a couple fight,
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, this is going to be not as easy as I thought. I guess she's mad at me. I don't know what I did." Look, I really liked. I thought that they would get along better because they're both into tech stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you would think that it's like when you meet another Star Trek person, like, "Oh, you like Star Trek too? Oh, what's your favorite show?" And then you just start going into talking about something. So when you find somebody who has the same love or passion as you do, and obviously in this case, we're talking about the ship and its components and what it's made up of, and the engine that powers it. That's what they're passionate about, right? So then the whole system, how it integrates together, how to boost and optimize it, I think was one of the main kind of storylines running through it. Like she was double checking his work and seeing, why he put this here, why was this altered here, and the adjustments that he had made. And what I did like was that they kept alluding to the next class of starship that was going to come out. So that was actually a cool thing too, to kind of hear, like, oh, these are the upgrades that we're going to have installed in the new ship. So, and you've already installed them on this one. So I thought that talk was interesting for me. Other than that, the tech stuff was like, I just tune out when I hear stuff like that.
Yeah, there I had a couple tune outs myself, and I'll tell you where those were on the other side when we hit that break. I also want to explain that ensign that pushes buttons way too hard, because that's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. So we'll see on the other side, everybody. We'll be right back on the seventh rule.